Hello, I'm Milford's Mayor, Ben Blake, and I'm here with Deepa Joseph, our Director of Health in the city of Milford. And some questions have come up about the state's travel advisory, the mandatory quarantine that went into effect for those affected states that are on the list on the state's coronavirus website. Some of the questions that come up are, do I need to quarantine for 14 days if I have a test? That's one of the questions that is repeatedly brought up.
So if you have a test, there are only very specific reasons why a negative test would be sufficient. So in general, the requirement is that you quarantine for 14 days because we know that the time period that coronavirus could potentially develop is up to 14 days from when you were last exposed. So the only reason a negative test would be acceptable would be in a circumstance where you are truly unable to quarantine, meaning, for example, you are coming to Connecticut for a funeral and it will be very shortly after you arrive. That would be a reason why a negative test result would be sufficient if you're staying for a short time for an extenuating circumstance.
So another question that continues to come up is, does this mandatory quarantine apply to everyone, including essential workers?
So essential workers are defined by FEMA, and you can find that list through going to the State of Connecticut coronavirus website. But essential workers, the only reason they do not have to quarantine is if they were traveling for work. So if the travel was work related, they do not need to quarantine. However, if it was for any other purpose, vacation, etc., they do need to quarantine for 14 days.
And how about the enforcement of this policy? How is the state of Connecticut enforcing this policy?
So this policy is being enforced through the State of Connecticut Department of Public Health Commissioner. And basically, when you travel to one of the affected states that have been identified, you need to complete a travel health form that can be found electronically on the State of Connecticut website. If you do not complete the form, a fine can be issued to you through the State of Connecticut Department of Public Health. And the other piece of it is if you do not quarantine for the required 14 days, a fine can be issued for that also through the State Commissioner of Health.
So continue to travel safe, follow the guidelines, be healthy, be well.